Okay, it's 5:30, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with today's meeting. Today we are so excited to welcome Thomas Hartman. He is a faculty member from AT Stills PA program. And just a couple updates and reminders before we get going. Today is our second to last meeting of the semester. We'll have one more meeting before the semester is over, and that's going to be on May 7th at 5:30 p.m., and that's going to be in person. It's going to be our end of year social. So I hope to see you guys all there. Another couple of reminders.
Okay.
Please make sure to be sending your event points and your volunteer hours to our email so we can record that and get
Okay,
your
you're
points
fine.
and your hours in. Another
Oh, you're
Sorry. Another important announcement, exec applications are going to be opening today for the next school year, and we have four positions open. So if you are interested in that, please make sure to look at the recap email and fill out your application form. That will be due on May 7th at 11:59 p.m.
what is that? Whose is that?
Please make sure to mute all your microphones. Thank you. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get started. I will hand it over to you, Thomas. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. Good evening. It's great to be here with you. Um, I am happy to be speaking to U of A students. So I grew up in Tucson for a large part of my life, and I love the Wildcats. So it's really great to be with you. So just a little bit about me. I am a native of Arizona. I grew up in Mesa and Tucson and went to NAU for undergrad. And then, I got a business degree and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And then I found the PA profession. And I went to AT Still University PA program and graduated back in 2008. So I've been a PA for quite a long time. And most of my career I've spent in the Level 1 Trauma Center over at Chandler ER for about 15 years. And so, in addition to being an ERPA, I also have additional training in wound care and hyperbaric medicine. And I still work clinically in addition to teaching full time. I still do some wound care, still do some ER, still do some urgent care. So, kind of in both worlds of teaching and um, active practice and clinical practice. So, um, I'm really excited for you guys to be interested in PA school. If you don't already know, CASPA application opens April 25th if you're planning on applying this cycle. So I do have some slides I'll share. And then if you guys have any questions, please put them in the chat or raise your hand or just jump in and ask a question. And we definitely will take questions at the end. So let me share my screen here. All right. Did my slides come up by chance?
Yeah, they look great.
All right, good. So AT Still University, we're up here in Mesa, in the east part of town, if you know where Superstition Springs Mall is, or the original Krispy Kreme in Mesa. That used to be the way I described it because that was the only one over there. So we're in East Mesa, and we've been, AT Still's had a campus in Arizona for 30 years now. So the PA program's been around a long time here. So that's what it looks like at our campus. If you've never been to visit, come on up and see us. So a little bit about our program. Really, we do a learning-centered education that's focused on whole person healthcare and underserved populations. And so we'll talk about our mission here as we go through the slides. But if you're here, you already know that PAs work in every part of medicine that there is, right? So if you can imagine it in medicine, there's probably a PA working in that part of medicine. So the sky's the limit. But if you aren't familiar about all the things that PAs can do, we do prescribe medications and order lab tests and CT scans and do medical histories and see our own patients like everybody else. So, and as I previously mentioned, PAs work in every part of medicine. As I mentioned, I work in an urgent care, an emergency department, and a wound care and hyperbaric clinic as well. So, this is kind of the breakdown from AAPA's 2023 survey as far as where do PAs work. So a lot of primary care, a lot of surgical subspecialties, a lot of hospital-based medicine as well. So whatever you want to do, you can do it as a PA. So my 310 number is even wrong, and I just updated these slides. I think that's up to 312 PA programs now across the United States and growing. But regardless of where you go to PA school, all the programs are roughly the same length. So about 27 months or 3 academic years. So, and by accreditation standards, they all offer master's degrees now. Used to be there was a few programs left back when I was applying to PA school many years ago that still had like either a certificate program or bachelor's program, but they are all master's programs now. Everybody else wants to know, how much do PAs make? Well, it depends, right? So if you work in pediatrics, that's one of the lower paying subspecialties. So you can expect in the 120s. But if you work in cardiothoracic surgery, you can make double or triple that depending on how much you work, right? And so
Could be what?
yeah, a lot of money.
Oh, what the fuck are you talking about?
I'll just mute her. So the sky's the limit as far as how much money you can make. It just really depends on what you're interested in which field. And if you're hospital-based, you can usually make a little bit more than some of the office-based professions. So let's see. So another question I get all the time is, what does the ideal student look like? Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's like a particular ideal student, right? Everybody's path to PA school looks very different. As I briefly mentioned before, I earned a bachelor's degree in business administration, which is a lot different than probably what a lot of you are studying right now in undergrad. So everybody's road looks a little different, but at the end of the day, we want people who are responsible and motivated and honest and have good communication skills. And so however you get there, that's fine, but those are some of the traits that we're looking for in students. And so does every student have every single one of those traits listed on the screen? Obviously not, right? But we like to get a good combination of those. So how do we do this? Well, so we like to recruit students who share our mission is one thing, right? So service to the underserved. So you were talking about earlier sending in your volunteer hours, right? We encourage our applicants to have volunteer hours, typically working with people, right? So I know there's lots of ways that you can volunteer, whether it be in like a pet shelter or something else, but we like our students to volunteer with people. Since you're going to work with people as a career, we like you to get used to talking to people that might be different than you. So volunteerism is very important to our program. And then a couple other ways that we try to work with underserved is in the second clinical year. So the second year of PA school, you get assigned to a federally qualified community health center where you do the majority of your rotations. And we'll talk about that here in a minute as well. Another way is through our Hometown Scholars program you see at the top of the screen, which is a program for students who get an endorsement from a federally qualified community health center, whether from working there or volunteering there or getting to know the staff and faculty there. If they get a letter of endorsement, that guarantees a student an automatic interview for our program. And more information can be found on our webpage, which I'll share in a few minutes about the Hometown Scholars program. So at our school, the prereqs are about the same as with every other school, right? So your anatomy, your physiology, all the ones on the screen there. So we encourage upper division science-based courses to prepare you for the rigor of PA school. But you don't have to take the GRE and you don't have to take the PA CAT or some of those other pre-PA admissions tests that they have out there. There's not really a great correlation to success in PA school and doing well on the GRE, right? So you don't really need to know how to multiply fractions to be successful in PA school. So we don't make our students take that anymore because it seems just like a barrier to getting into PA school rather than like a true aptitude test of how you'll do once you get here. So if you have taken the GRE, that's fine, but you don't have to take it to come to our program. So for our class of 2027, we had just over 2,000 applicants, and we interviewed 304 individuals and accepted 100 students. And so these are our students that are going to start this July in our next class. And so you can see the average cumulative GPA is 3.6 and the average science GPA of 3.59. Now, that's just an average. Are some students higher? Yeah. Are some students lower? Yeah. Our minimum GPA for both of those is 3.0. So as long as you have at least a 3.0, you'll qualify for our program. So PA school is a lot of work, as you probably know. You probably all hear about like drinking out of a fire hose. That's usually how people describe it, right? But we like to have fun too. So here's some pictures from our clinical lab series. I teach a lot of the hands-on clinical skills labs. And so on the top left corner, the students are doing shoulder injections using augmented reality goggles. And if you haven't used those before, it's really neat because it projects the anatomy right onto the task trainer mannequin that you're using. And so you can actually watch your needle go into the appropriate location anatomically, which makes it a lot easier to learn. So in the bottom left corner, you'll see an ultrasound machine. And we do a lot of hands-on point of care ultrasound. If you've worked in medicine in the last 5 years, you'll know that we use ultrasound for just about everything now, right? It's not just looking at babies and pregnancy anymore. We use it on eyeballs to look for retinal detachment. We use it on abdomens. We use it on hearts. We use it on lungs. We use it for just about everything you can think of to aid us clinically. And so our students get a whole year of point of care ultrasound training through their first didactic year, which is one thing that's different from our program compared to a lot of other programs that you'll find that many other PA programs do little to no ultrasound training. Then on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see some students practicing intubation on a mannequin. And on the bottom, you'll see them practicing IVs on each other. So when it's safe, we like to practice skills on each other, right? Whether it's blood draws or IVs or giving injections. But for things like intubation, obviously we'll use task trainers to do that. So, and again, our skills program runs through the whole first year and mirrors the clinical medicine series. So for example, when you're in cardiology in the clinical medicine course, then you'll be learning cardiology skills in the skills course. So everything kind of builds on each other. So as far as the didactic component, it lasts 14 months and you get 84 semester credit hours in 14 months. So if you think of your heaviest semester in undergrad, it was probably like 18 to 20 courses or 20 credit hours maybe. So, you know, in a heavy year in undergrad, you could probably take 40 credit hours. And in PA school, you get about 84 credit hours in a year. So it's a lot. We tell people that your job is PA school now, right? And so PA school is typically like 8 to 5, Monday through Friday is what we tell the students. It's not that way every week. Usually Wednesday morning and Friday afternoons, our students are off. And so that is helpful, but it's busy. There's a lot going on and there's a lot to learn before you go to clinical practice. And then the second year is the clinical component. The last 48 weeks. That's when you're out doing your rotations. So no matter where you go to PA school, by accreditation standards, every student has to complete 7 core rotations. So that's things like internal medicine, family practice, pediatrics, general surgery, women's health, behavioral health, and I can't remember the one, I always forget. But, and then we also give you an elective as well. So no matter where you go, you'll have to do at least those 7 core clinical rotations. And then some places offer an elective and some do not, but we do offer an elective. So, you know, if you're interested in orthopedics or if you're interested in neurosurgery or whatever that might be, we can help arrange a rotation for that for you in your clinical year. So in the first year, during the didactic year, so we teach you, you have a skills course, a history and physical exam course. We do some volunteer experiences and we have some clubs and have some other stuff going on campus as well for the students. And we have some interprofessional experiences as well, right? So on campus, we have a DO program, a PA program, physical therapy, occupational therapy, dental, audiology, athletic training, so all health professions. And so we have several activities for the PA students to interact with students from other programs to see how our professions overlap and how we can work as a team to better serve our patients. Here's some pictures out doing some service around town here and around Arizona. If you're familiar with Circle City, they offer healthcare for individuals experiencing homelessness in Maricopa County. And we were able to take some students out and do some skin cancer prevention education with one of their mobile health clinics over in Mesa, which was a lot of fun. So again, we briefly touched on during the second year, our students go out to do rotations based at a community health center. And so we have locations across the United States. I think I've got, there we go, a map. All the states in orange are states with community health centers with whom we have arrangements for our students for their second year. So the way it works is our students will rank, 1 to 12, what their preferred location is after having a presentation about each of the locations during the didactic year. And so we try to match students with their top 1 or 2 or 3 choices, right? So we have students, this year we have a new site in New Jersey that's right across the river from New York City that a lot of students are excited about. But every year this map changes a little bit. We also have like a rural Arizona track and also a Phoenix track. So for students who are interested in staying in Arizona, that's certainly a possibility. Go back here. And so the reason that we send students out to these communities is, one, a lot of these rural communities, they're not all like out in the middle of nowhere, but they might be underserved communities in the middle of a large city as well, right? New Jersey's not rural, but they certainly can have some underserved communities. And so we like to send our students out there to help these communities. And then the students stay there their whole second year and become a part of that community. And so lots of times that leads to job offers wherever they are. And a lot of students accept those offers because a lot of the community health centers offer loan repayment. As you know, PA school is not cheap. So here's a list of our current community campus partners this year. Like I said, it changes a little bit from year to year, not much. We've been partners with a lot of these groups for several years, but the new one this year is New Jersey. So here's a copy of our PANCE pass rates. So the important column is the one in purple all the way on the right. So if you look at our last 5 years, our PANCE pass rate has exceeded the national average, which is in the column right next to it. So our students do very well on the PANCE and are well prepared to practice when they get out to clinic. If you need a little help going over your application, we certainly have some opportunities to do that. The email address at the bottom is, we'll get you connected with our admissions officer for the PA program. And also, if you look on eventbrite.com for AT Still University, we also have, sometimes we offer some like personal statement writing workshop and things of that nature, just to help you get ready as you enter your information into CASPA. We also do accept VA benefits. So if you're a veteran or have veteran benefits, we would be happy to accept those in our program. So there's the website you can look at for that if you need more information. And then this is my contact information. That's my office phone number, but I'm never in there. So probably email is the easiest. So I'm pretty quick about emails. So if you have any questions specifically about the program or need help or need information about something, certainly reach out. Ryan Wallace, whose name is just under mine, is our admissions officer for our PA program. And he's a wealth of information, very helpful. And also Clinton Nomore and Stephanie McGrew from the Office of Diversity and Inclusion also work with students as they are preparing for our program as well. So there's a lot of resources and people who are here to help you. If you want to be kept up to date about goings on in our program, you can scan the QR code. If you put your email in, it'll take you to a list. You can put your email in. And I periodically send out emails about things that are going on campus, including like open houses or expo or Spring Expo. It's a good opportunity to come check things out as well. So I'm happy to send that to you if you're interested. And now let's take some questions if you guys want to talk about it. It doesn't have to be about my program. It could be about PA school in general too. Anyone? Anybody awake?
I'll go ahead and get us started. Usually
Cool.
people just flood the chat once
Yeah,
we're going, but could you talk about patient care experience and what AT still values for what kind of patient care experience?
yeah, that's a great question. So last year we lowered our minimum number of hours to 500. So there's that. A lot of programs are, between 500 and 2,000. So it depends on where you're looking. We lowered our hours to 500, and we take scribe hours. We like you to have some hands-on direct patient care hours as well. So that could be anything from like a phlebotomist to a medical assistant to anything working directly with patients, like an ER tech or an EMT or anything where you're actually working directly with the patient is helpful. But we do take scribe hours as well. So there's a question in the chat about for volunteer hours, do we only accept hours that pertain directly to clinic? No, it can be anything. It could be volunteering in a soup kitchen or a hospital, but we like it to be directly with humans, not animals, right? Because you're going to work with humans when you're done with PA school, ideally, right? And so we like your volunteer hours to be directly with humans. Good question. And then Kim asked, what is the schedule like working in the ER? Well, it's crazy. So it's nights, holidays, and weekends. Most ERs have like day shift, swing shift, night shift. Some weeks I've worked all 3 shifts in the same week. So like days, swings, and nights. You just get used to being tired. It's like you're permanently jet lagged. So, but the flip side of that is you only usually work 3 to 4 days a week in the ER, so that gives you lots of time off to go do fun things and travel and hang out with friends and have hobbies and things of that nature. So the ER is wild and exciting, and it's the good part about it is when you're off shift, you're done. You're not taking call. People aren't, texting you. You're not reviewing labs and charts at home. Typically, like when you leave for the night, you're done. So that's the good part about ER. One of the good parts. Next question was, is science GPA or patient care favored? I don't know that we have favor for either of those. In our admissions, we have a holistic approach to admissions, and so we look at everything, right? And so, if somebody has a GPA of 3.2, but they work full time or whatever during undergrad, well, okay, that's fine. If that explains why your GPA might be a little bit lower as compared to somebody that has a 4.0 but never had a job, right? And so we try to take in the whole picture and evaluate everything rather than just look at GPA or patient care. Again, the point of having patient care hours is really so that students are used to talking and examining and touching and working with people that are strangers to them, right? So when you become a PA, you have to take care of people and work on people that you've never met. And so the whole point of having patient care hours isn't necessarily so that you have a great medical base when you get to PA school. It's more so that you're comfortable talking to strangers and examining strangers and working on them. So, and we want to make sure that you're not scared of blood, right? So it would be horrible to go all through PA school and then realize you don't like blood or you can't stand the sight of blood or whatever, especially since you have to do a surgery rotation. So Next question from Emma. How could someone be more competitive application even if they don't have the world's best GPA? So if you don't have the world's best GPA, then you need to, like in your personal statement, you could kind of explain like, what was going on in your life, or, were you working, or, were you involved in sports, or were you involved in 20 clubs, right? A lot of people get to undergrad and there's a lot going on that's distracting from your studies, and that's okay. We understand that, right? And sometimes people have a bad semester or a bad year. But what we're really interested in, like when you're applying to school, is we want to see like an upward trajectory of like good grades, right? So even if you had some semesters where you struggled, like, as long as your last few semesters you're like doing good and you're getting good grades and you have good experience, certainly having a lower GPA does not disqualify you. So as I mentioned, our minimum is 3.0. We have some students that have 3.0 GPAs, but like the rest of their application, they have good patient care experience and good volunteerism. So just having a low GPA doesn't necessarily exclude you from getting into PA school. So keep that in mind. Again, we look at the application as a whole, not just your GPA. Marissa says, do you feel like getting your bachelor's in business was an advantage or disadvantage when applying to programs? Well, I think it was both. It was an advantage because it set me apart as somebody that was different, but it was a disadvantage because it took me like 2 years to go back and do all my prereqs for PA school, since I didn't really take any of those things during undergrad in a business degree, right? So I had to go back, take all my sciences. So but like I said, everybody's path to PA school is different. So there's not really like the ideal student to me. Next question, is an EMT a good way to get patient care experience, or what was your favorite preferred way? I like being an EMT. I was able to work on the ambulance, and then I also worked as an ER tech. And one of the reasons I like that is you get to see everything, right? It's not all little babies. It's not all old people. It's everything you can imagine, right? And so you get a lot of exposure to sickness, and you get good at picking out who's sick or who's not sick, right? And sometimes that's a tricky thing to do. And so getting to see a lot of patients helps you just with your clinical gestalt, like when you get into PA school and start practicing, it helps you evaluate like who do you need to worry about, who's sick, and who's probably just fine. So EMT, that's probably the funnest, honestly, the funnest job I ever had, driving an ambulance. I loved it. So next question, what is your recommendation for being able to pay for this program? What does financial aid scholarships look like for PA school? So there's financial aid and loans and scholarships available. So this is what I tell all PA students, no matter where they go. Free money is good, right? So if you can find somebody to pay for your PA school, I would highly recommend it. There's programs out there through the National Health Service Corps where they offer loan repayment. And so you can either apply for that as soon as you get accepted to a PA school, or you can apply like while you're in school or after school, right? So if you apply as soon as you get accepted somewhere, basically what the National Health Service Corps does is they give you a monthly stipend to live on while you're in PA school. And then when you graduate, you work for them for like 2 or 3 years, and then they pay off all your loans and give you a salary. So that's a good way to get through school. Another way is you can consider like Army, Air Force, military. They hire a lot of PAs, and you go in as an officer, and they do loan repayment, and you're usually, I think it's like a 3-year contract. And then another way you can do it, if you remember, we talked about federally qualified community health centers. A lot of those community health centers will offer loan repayment as well. So those are probably the easiest ways to get your school paid for. Unfortunately, I didn't know about all that stuff, and I did it the old-fashioned way, like having 3 jobs after I graduated, so I could pay them off fast. So it's doable any of those ways, but I wish I would have done like loan repayment through one of those options, because that would have made my life a lot easier. So next question, do we utilize a rolling admissions process? We do. So we start, obviously, applications open April 25th, and then we start reviewing them as soon as they start coming in, and we'll start interviews mid-September. And so as soon as we start interviewing, we start accepting students. So our interviews are typically on Monday mornings, and then by Thursday, we'll call you and tell you the result of your interview, right? So some programs wait till like March or whatever. They wait forever to let you know. There's no real use, in my opinion, from doing that. Like, if we like you, we like you. We don't want to wait and see what else might come along. Like, there's no use in doing that to me. So we do rolling admissions. So the earlier you apply, the better your chances of being accepted are. How would I describe the relationship between our PA students and our faculty? So we're like a big family, okay? So for better or for worse. So each student has a faculty advisor. We all have an open door policy. We meet with our students mandatory once a block, but a lot of my students will come in and check in and say hi, or email, or stop by and eat lunch, or any of those things. And then a lot of us, after class, or before we go home at night, we'll wander through the library and answer questions for students if they have anything on our way out. That saves them from having to email us. We can explain things. It's easier in person than trying to do it on email. So we have a great relationship with our students. In fact, today we had like a just little spring pizza party for the students on the back patio. Just go out and hang out and eat food and enjoy the nice weather. And then last month, 2 months ago, one of the other staff and I, we had a barbecue on the back patio for all the PA students, which is really fun. Sometimes we'll have like a potluck or whatever. We like to do things outside of just being in lecture or lab or whatever, right? So we get to know each other very well, and we have a good relationship with our students. So let's see. Next question was, how recent do volunteer hours have to be? So like during undergrad is probably a reasonable amount of time to list your volunteer hours. Like, don't list them from like 6th grade. Some people like go way back. It's like, how old? You were like 10. So just like undergrad is probably the best way to do that as far as volunteer hours. Have I heard of PAs working in anesthesiology? I vaguely, but I don't know much about PAs working in anesthesiology. I know they have like anesthesiology assistants, but I'm not sure like what other additional training PAs do to achieve that. So let's see. Next question was, for the out-of-state clinical rotations, do the students have to pay for that, or does the school fund it? So this, as far as the rotations go, whatever town that you'll be living in, you'll pay for it's some places offer free housing and some places don't, right? So just like you have an apartment or a dorm wherever you're at for undergrad, it's the same thing for your second year. So whatever community you go to, housing is your responsibility. And so, but some places offer free housing. Some of our locations have reduced cost housing as well. So it just kind of varies. And they talk about all that in the presentations when you're trying to decide which location you'd like to go to. So, but when you're in that location, you're there for the whole second year. You don't come back after each rotation. We have virtual return to campus days. So students who are assigned to campuses outside of Arizona just zoom in at the end of each rotation. So makes it pretty easy, so you're not going back and forth. And then they basically come back 2 weeks before graduation to do the summative exam and to finish up like all the stuff that you need to do before you graduate. So are there any pending science classes you can have and still apply? Absolutely. So a lot of students will apply like in their last semester of undergrad. If they still may be enrolled in some science class that's a prereq. If you have one or two or maybe three prereqs outstanding, that's fine. A lot of students haven't taken medical terminology, and that's not a big deal. But if you have all of your prereqs outstanding, I probably wouldn't apply for another until the next cycle. But we commonly accept students that have outstanding prereqs, and the only stipulation is that you have to complete that with a grade of C or better by the time you matriculate into PA school. So as you know, like the cycle, we're open this month to start in July of 2026. So you have over a year to get all that stuff done. So it's not that big of a deal. What kind of patient cases do you see and treat as an ERPA? Everything you can think of, from heart attacks, strokes, trauma, gallbladder problems, pancreatitis, appendicitis, miscarriages, anything. People do crazy stuff. Car accidents. Had a guy put a nail through his finger with a nail gun. Just anything you can think of that we treat as ERPAs. Some of that depends on the hospital that you work in too. Sometimes in hospitals, they'll have a PA in fast track, but the hospital I work in doesn't have a fast track. We see anything that walks through the door. So keeps it interesting and exciting. So would you accept an online science class? Yes, I would. The lab would be taken in person, but the lecture would be fully online. Yeah, that's fine. There's all sorts of courses online that we accept. So if it's like anatomy and physiology or one of those that a lab is required, as long as you complete the lab as well, we'll take it. So we don't mind if you take it online. So good question. Let's see. Other questions I can answer for you. Don't be shy. What are the interviews like? Good question. So we do an MMI format, right? And so if you aren't familiar with the MMI, typically there are 6 stations, basically, and each station will have a prompt. And it could be to assess a personality trait or an ethics case, right? So typically you'll have 1 minute to read the prompt and then 5 minutes to respond. And so typically we use our faculty as interviewers. And so you get to meet a lot of the faculty. So after doing the round of MMIs, you'll also have a 15-minute one-on-one with either Dr. Holvey, or who's our program director, or myself. I'm the director of admissions, or one of our other admissions team, like Dr. Pavlik, who's the program chair, somebody like that. So we can kind of review your application together and then ask any questions that we might have, and you can give us any clarifying statements about anything in your application that way as well. So we're pretty laid back at our program. We don't going to PA school is stressful enough. We try to keep it as chill as possible during interviews, and let you guys get to know us, and we want to get to know you. And so, the interviews are as much for you to get to know us and make sure that you're comfortable with our program and our faculty as it is for us to get to know you. So remember that when you're going to interviews, no matter where it is, whether it's our program or somewhere else, you want to make sure the program feels right to you. Okay. If you look at all the admissions data in the literature out there, the two biggest factors as far as what affects where students decide to go to PA school. Number one is location. So most students go within 250 miles of their hometown. So that's the first thing. And then number two isn't really something you can measure. Number two was students rated it's about how they feel when they're there, right? And so it's the soft skills, the non-measurables, right? It's not anything more than that. Those are the two biggest factors that it seems like in the literature that affect where people go to school. So when you're interviewing, you want to go to a school where the program makes you feel comfortable, right? Where you can get along with the faculty and you feel comfortable talking to them, because you're going to spend a lot of time with them and a lot of money. right? So you want to go somewhere that fits your personality. So just remember that when you're interviewing. So how many programs did I apply to, and what's my recommendation now? I think I applied to 10 programs, and I had gotten into AT Still was my first interview. And they called me like, the same week, and I knew I got in. And so I only interviewed in one other place because I'm from Arizona and I want to stay in Arizona. But I interviewed at the University of Utah as well. It was a top 5 program at the time, but it didn't fit my personality. So I like the people at AT Still, like it was close to my house. And so that worked best for me. So, if you look at the literature, I want to say like an average is like 11 schools people apply to. And the average time for students to get into PA school, I think is like 2.7 years off the top of my head. And so, don't be discouraged if you don't get in your first round, right? There's 300 PA schools, but there's like 60,000 people trying to get into them, right? And so just because you don't get in on your first try doesn't mean you're not a good applicant. I would recommend that if you apply to school, then you don't get in, I would ask for feedback. What would strengthen your application? Some programs will offer that to you and some do not. Our program, we do keep notes for any student that doesn't get in. Like if you call and ask us, we'll tell you like what would make your application better. So I'd certainly recommend that. So is our program accredited? It is accredited. So there's two sides of that. There's two answers to that question. So we are accredited. During our last accreditation visit, we got put on probation. And it wasn't for academic reasons. It was for, if you recall looking at our slide, our pass rate is like above the national average for the last 5 years. There was some administrative stuff that the RPA wanted us to change, like some things on the website and some verbiage in like the clinical year syllabi. That's all been changed and updated. And so unfortunately, whenever they put a program on probation, it lasts for 2 years, no matter what. And so they'll come visit us again in October. And I don't anticipate any problem coming off of that probation thing. But again, it had nothing to do with our academics. One of the things that we got cited for was, so one of the RPA standards is you're supposed to list the cost of your PA program, which online, which we did. But we had it broken down by year 1 and year 2, and they wanted us to add those two numbers together. So it seems silly, but it is what it is. But yeah, I don't anticipate any problem. So the only thing with probation, the way it works is with RPA, if you enroll in any school that is accredited, whether it's probation or not, typically they let you, it's still an accredited school. So you can take your board exams and pass your PANCE just like normal, get your license, anything like that. So if there was some sort of issue, if you looked at the last year, about 50% of the programs that all got visited for accreditation all went on probation for something or another. So all those schools still are enrolling students just like normal. There's no change as far as that goes. If there's a problem with your academics or your program that's egregious, then they don't let you enroll students anymore until you fix those things. So that's not a problem in our program. So like I said, the issues that we had were like administrative, and those had all been fixed. So good question. And I know that about the accreditation thing too, like some students get nervous about that, understandably so, right? You're spending a lot of time and money and effort to become a PA. There's different levels of accreditation, right? There's like the provisional. So like U of A is starting a PA program in the next couple of years. And so people get nervous about going to those. And I wouldn't really honestly be nervous, especially if the school's been around a long time and they're PANCE pass rate is high, I would caution you from going to programs that have low PANCE pass rates, even if they're fully accredited, right? Because if there's low PANCE pass rates, that means that they could have some struggles either with faculty turnover or with, the curriculum isn't adequate to meet the demands of the current PADS blueprint. So I'll just probably stop there as far as accreditation goes. But you want to typically look for programs that have been around a while. They have good PANCE pass rates. So good question. Other questions?
It looks like there may not be any more questions, but did you want to send anything in the chat? I know you mentioned that earlier.
I'm just gonna I'll put my email in there, and
Okay.
then if you guys have any questions for me directly, certainly feel free to reach out. I'm happy to answer questions about either our program or just applying to PA school in general. And nobody really has their camera on, but I was gonna say, how many of you plan on applying to PA school this cycle? All right, Grace. Good. Good. So just having a plan, because if you haven't looked at CASPA, I'd urge you to look at it sooner rather than later, because it's a bit cumbersome to enter like all your grades into and all your service and all your extracurricular experiences. And so I would start on that early, and I think they let you roll it over from 1 year to the next. But the other thing I would tell you about your CASPA application would be, one, don't use AI to write your personal statement, because that's pretty easy to spot. But two, make your personal statement not just about how you decided you want to go to PA school. You should talk about experiences that you've had that will make you a good PA, right? Do you have grit? Do you have ability to work well with others, right? Some of those other things. Because a lot of personal statements, typically it's like, oh, I got in a car accident and I had to go to the ER and a PA took care of me and now I want to be a PA. That's cool, but tell me what experiences have shaped you to who you are today and why that would make you a good PA. So the other thing I'd talk about or I'd recommend is have as many people as you can read your personal statement before you submit it. And then ask them what did you learn about me? Or can you tell from my personal statement why I would be a good PA? Maybe you could ask them that too. So just having people read through that for you as you work on it is usually pretty helpful. So good. Okay, you guys are letting me off the hook easy.
Okay, yeah, if no one has any other questions, I guess we will wrap it up. Thank you so much, Thomas. This was so helpful and insightful. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, no problem. And don't feel, don't hesitate to reach out if you guys have any questions or if I can help you with anything.
I'll share your email with our club.
Cool. Happy to do it. So thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks.